We're just about to leave the stables and notice that I didn't say which stable. And this is not Do It Again. This is a horse by Captain Al, and his name's Echo Hawk. He's been on television before because he was a very good racehorse, but we're not going to make comparisons between this Hat Mubtahij and Do It Again and a horse called Hawwaam. They're all incredible racehorses. So what we're actually going to discuss today is the aftermath of the Vodacom Durban July. The fact that Hawwaam, very sadly, for all the connections, for the public, for the jockey, for the trainer, for the groom, for every single person, including Sheikh Hamdan, must have been absolutely devastated. But we don't want to take any of the gloss away from Do It Again. A magnificent performance under top weight, beating the second best horse in the country of his age, a horse called Rainbow Bridge. We're going to chat now to Lennon Maharaj to find out what has happened to the merit ratings, to find out what he thinks about the race had it taken place with Hawwaam in the race, on his merit rating, on his collateral form. So without any further ado, let's go and join Lennon Maharaj, who we caught up with at Turffontein yesterday. What's your take on the reason for the National Horse Racing Authority requesting that he gets reschooled?
I think it's in the best interest of racing for a horse to be tractable, not only for racing but for the horse itself. I think Mike de Kock would probably agree. And as such, the rules were applied. The horse is suspended for 7 days. In that time, he may not be presented for recertification. But I think that 7 days is actually up today, the 13th, if my memory serves me correctly. So from tomorrow onwards, he can be presented for repassing, and he's got to prove his tractability.
Well, I would think that even if it was 30 days, it's still not a disaster, because when a horse has been prepped specifically for the Vodacom Durban July, having been in Durban for the Daily News 2000 where he comfortably beat Twist of Fate, they have had Milan du Toit work with the horse, and up until the time that he went into the starting stalls, his behavior was absolutely impeccable.
I couldn't agree more, Andrew. It's hard to imagine how he could go from what he was. He was so placid in the parade ring with all the crowd, with all the festivities going around, with the sounds. And he went on beautifully to the start. He never played up. It's just that the last minute, he just got a bit upset, charged the gates, and I think he sat down in the stalls and unfortunately reared and injured himself. So as soon as he was taken out from the stalls, he didn't look sound behind. And you don't want a horse like that running, a horse of his caliber, or any caliber actually, running in a race under those conditions. And I believe Dr. Sutherland made the right call, and the only call in my opinion, and scratched the horse from the race.
He clearly hurt himself in the gates. And when he was taken out, he was definitely lame. He's sound now, so it looks like he's really hit a muscle or something, giving himself a proper lummy. Going into the gates, but it's just, I feel for the staff, the grooms, their build up, it's their big payday if things come off.
Sure.
A spectacular, the line through Twist of Fate, it looked like there would have been a good spectacle, but it wasn't to be. So, let's make sure that that's not the headline, and that the very good win by Do It Again is, and he deserves his place in history. He's a proper horse.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate and use whatever tools we have, and there are plenty of them, to decipher more or less where you think, on paper, he would have run had he participated.
It's always difficult to speculate, Andrew, because this horse has been winning with consummate ease. And the most difficult horse to get hold of is a horse that continually wins. You never know how good they are till they get beat. So what you see on paper, it probably comes out as Do It Again would have won anyway, on a line through Twist of Fate. Remember that Do It Again's beaten Twist of Fate at worse than weight for age terms. The weight for age at that point was 2 kgs, and there was something like 6 kgs between them. And Hawwaam beat Twist of Fate at level weights. So using that sort of logic, you would think that Do It Again would still have the measure of Hawwaam. Having said that, we actually don't know how good Hawwaam is. All he could do is win. I think he was just getting better and better. He was over-racing in some of those races. He looked a lot more calm on July Day. So one would imagine if he settled, you'd probably get a little bit more out of him than when he beat Twist of Fate. So look, we could speculate all we want, but the fact of the matter is, on paper, Do It Again's the better horse.
Am I correct in saying that Twist of Fate is now merit rated 117?
Correct.
So, did he run to his merit rating, or was his merit rating lifted after the Daily News 2000?
Andrew, we've got him running a little bit below his rating. We've got him running to a 115. If you consider that he had a disadvantageous draw, he had to work really hard. He was up with the pace. It was an incredible performance. But he may have run a little bit below his best. Well, that's the assumption. What we do know is how good a horse like Rainbow Bridge is. We don't believe he'd run much better than his Met performance, and we use that as the sort of benchmark to rate the race. So we've got Do It Again going up a single pound. Remember, he's a 2 pound better horse now than Rainbow Bridge at the weights and the half length margin. And we've got Twist of Fate running a little bit below. Most of the field was under sufferance. There's a lot of them fit really well in the race. The fourth horse, who was a little bit unlucky in the race.
Eyes wide shut.
Eyes wide open. Eyes wide open. Let's clarify that.
Yeah.
Eyes wide open. We've got him actually running to his mark. So, considering he suffered a little bit of interference, to rate the race any higher and showing him running better than his rating wouldn't look correct to me, considering he suffered a bit of interference from the winner, as it turns out. And so we've got him running to his mark. The majority of the field run to their mark, so there was not many changes made to most of them. I think Divine Odyssey dropped. He went up for his run at Turffontein, and he's subsequently dropped to his previous rating. Return Flight, she showed a lot of pace. I think she had a really hard season, and she went hard in the early stages. She looked like a tired horse.
And Sean Terry did tell me the other morning that Head Honcho just pressed her the whole way.
Yeah,
Which
they never left each other alone, and I think they went probably a bit too hard. Both of them succumbed to that in the end, and even Head Honcho faded out tamely. He made a move, and then he had nothing to come. It certainly was a below par effort on his part as well.
Well, I suppose in a way that tells you just how good Twist of Fate's run really was.
Twist of Fate is up there. They put the blinkers on for the first time, and he was keen. He was up with the pace, and it was a resolute run. He never actually stopped or faded away. He just stayed on till the finish. So any doubts about his ability over the distance is non-existent. He definitely saw out the trip.
Well, I think I've got to ask the question. I mean, the Sporting Post is the voice of the people. And there were people that were amazed that there was no objection, that Do It Again actually came in onto Eyes Wide Open. And when he decided to make his run earlier on than that, he took out Roy Had Enough when he came out. But Greyville's so narrow these days, I mean, it's always going to be a slightly rough race. And it wasn't reckless. That's the way I saw it. How did the NHA see it?
In view of, in terms of a race review, before you call a race review, you got to have some idea that, in this case, that Eyes Wide Open would have had a chance of beating Do It Again, and there was no prospect of that. So in terms of that, there was no need for a race review, because in terms of our objection rule, you got to prove that Eyes Wide Open, but for the interference, would have finished ahead of Do It Again. And in all honesty, when Do It Again went past Eyes Wide Open, he left him like he was standing still.
He was giving him lots of weight.
And he was giving him weight. Look, it's sort of irrelevant in a way, but it's more the fact that you got to be sure, you got to have had some sort of idea that Eyes Wide Open would have actually finished in front of Do It Again, and I don't think anyone would agree with that.
But the American rule would have taken the race away from Do It Again.
Yeah, fortunately we don't apply that rule anymore.
It's a fiasco.
It is a fiasco. I'm happier with my rule. I think the correct horse won on the day. Unfortunately, Eyes Wide Open did meet with some interference. He perhaps cost him third place, as it was pretty close for between third or fourth. And Eyes Wide Open himself was finishing off the race quite well, but I think the way Do It Again went past him, there was no chance of him ever getting on terms with Do It Again. So there was no need for a race review.